This is 5 Minutes With. We're here with author and historian Richard Dolan, talking about his new book. How you doing, Rich?
Hi, great. Thank you, Ben.
Why don't you tell us about the new book you're working on?
I'm an author on the topic of military cover-up of UFOs, and my book, Volume 1, and now I'm working on Volume 2 of a book called UFOs and the National Security State. And it's a history dealing with the national security implications of the UFO phenomenon.
How did your first book start out? What led you into writing this first book?
It's always funny when I think about it. I backed into the whole UFO field, really wasn't expecting or intending to do anything like that. I was working on a doctoral dissertation right here in Rochester at the U of R, University of Rochester, doing Cold War studies. I can assure you in the academic world, they don't do UFO studies, flying saucers, nothing like that. But I got interested, I recall in the early 90s, wondering, you know, every now and then you hear someone who seems to talk seriously about this topic as if it's something important. And studying the early Cold War in particular, I thought, you know, could there be something to this? Even if some of these alleged generals and admirals and intelligence guys were mistaken, if they were actually interested in UFOs around 1950, wouldn't that be interesting? So really, it just started out for me as a personal project, trying to find out, was there anything to this argument that there was something serious about the UFO issue? I very quickly found out that, to my satisfaction, yes, there was a lot that was serious. There were a lot of very important people who were taking it very seriously.
What would you say that the book one, the scope of book one, and where's book two going to go? Right.
Book one is about 500 pages, and that covers, as I say, from the early 1940s to 1973. And that covers a couple of different things. It covers, first of all, many of the military UFO encounters themselves that we have records of, and we do have some pretty good records of these. Also, to the extent possible, to determine what policies were taken by the U.S. government and intel community as a result of this. And also there was a third story in that first book, which was the rise of private organizations trying to end UFO secrecy. And I was interested in tracking their history and seeing how far they got or didn't get. Volume 2 is taking that story from 1974, and it will go, we're in 2007 now, it will go to 2007. Whatever day I finish that book, that's the day it will end.
In your opinion, how deep is the UFO thing in regards to the government or the black arm of the government or cover-up? How deep is
Yeah, I've come to the feeling that it's very deep, that the phenomenon is real. There's really no question in my mind that there is a legitimate technological UFO phenomenon. In other words, of objects that are flying around that are not supposed to exist, basically. I mean, look, even if we're making our own UFOs and have always, let's say, made our own UFOs, is that not interesting? I mean, of course it's interesting. That would mean that someone came up with a revolutionary technology decades ago and are keeping it secret. Well, if that's the case, that's an important thing. On the other hand, one thing that I notice in many of the reports that I've been able to read is that a lot of these encounters with UFOs were very confrontational and very provocative. So that, in other words, an object would come into restricted airspace, be seen by multiple personnel, be tracked on radar frequently, and then just take off like a bullet. Now, if that's one of our own back in 1950, I have a hard time figuring out how that could be. Is that a black op that that's been going on for over 50 years, in which there's one agency that's triggering alerts in all of our bases worldwide and in other countries? That's an odd program. And so there have been many U.S. military personnel who've looked into this who do believe that it's an extraterrestrial phenomenon or some kind of non-human thing going on.
Are UFOs the biggest cover-up in your opinion?
Possibly, yeah. They're right up there. I happen to think that 9/11 is very probably a cover-up of some sort. I'm not saying that I know exactly how 9/11 went down, but I would say that if you were to objectively look at the facts that occurred that day with the official explanations, that you could see that there's something not right there. Now, whatever that is, but I think that there's a problem with that. I do think that with the UFO secret, this is one of the top 2 or 3 cover-ups going. I would rank the Kennedy assassination as to this day a pretty big cover-up that had major implications for our society. But yeah, UFOs, it's a big deal.
Yeah. If someone's interested in this stuff and they want to learn more about it, what would you recommend? How can they be involved more in it?
There's a lot of good websites out there. My own website has about 40 pages of my book online, which you can read. I've written a lot of articles doing analysis on this topic, and that's at keyholepublishing.com. So if you want to learn about current UFO sightings, you can always go to the National UFO Reporting Center, which is out there on the web, and he's got thousands of sightings for every year. These are primarily not investigated. They're what are called raw reports, where people just write in what they see, but they make for interesting reading, I'll tell you that. There are the websites of organizations such as MUFON and CUFOS, which are long-standing research organizations, which have interesting and helpful information on the web. There's lots of others. Easy web searches here.
All right. I think that's everything.
Thank you, Ben.
All right.
My pleasure.
Thanks. That's been 5 minutes with Richard Dolan, author and historian and Rochester's top conspiracy theorist.